diabetes, I couldn't have that stuff over because
How are you making out control?
Yeah.
When did you find out about it?
What's that?
When did you find out about
I
it?
believe it's up there.
Long time ago. Like that too.
Oh, yeah.
That's like TID for probably 10 or 15 years.
Well,
Good job.
Yes.
That's very that's manageable.
Yeah, it is. When you're stupid, then you're stupid.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, where do we begin?
I don't know.
No, that's not good.
All right, well, Barbara Sherman, Dick Sherman, from the American Heritage River Commission. We have, this past year, a budget of $3,500, and we're asking that you continue to give us that budget of $3,500. That covers the secretary minutes for the 12 meetings of the year. And
How much is
also,
that?
pardon?
How much is secretary?
$100 a month.
It's once a month.
Once
Yes.
a month meeting, yes, sir. And we also pay for the reagents for the testing that's done for the river, the E. coli, and the other testing that's done. And that runs approximately $1,400 to $1,700.
So that's the whole thing.
And I don't know if you want, the state of the Scannic is online. I can send you an electronic copy of it. It's 217 pages. I doubt you really want to read it. But the back pages are, to me, the most important ones, the most relevant ones. If you look at that, and you'll see just about every week that it was tested for E. coli, we had at least one place that had elevated levels. And we need to know that.
Each month?
Yes. And we need to know, it's done weekly.
Weekly during the
It's done
summer
weekly
for
during
the
the
E.
summer.
coli.
And where are they sampled?
Okay.
Numerous places?
Yes, the samples are done at Melrose Bridge, Route 140 where Harrington Stream comes in, East Road, Rye Street where Ketchbrook comes
Yep.
into the Scannic, Mill Street where Broadbrook comes into the Scannic, the filter beds, which is just
Yep.
to the north, and we're adding 2 more this year for no additional cost. Windsorville Pond and Cemetery Road, just above where Osborne Bridge is, Osborne Mill Bridge. The reason we're doing Windsorville Pond, the Ketchbrook site has always been good. Isn't that great?
Yes.
But they wanted to know why that site has always been good and the others aren't. Turns out the water has been testing good. The soil is off the charts.
Elsewhere, other than
No.
Right there at the bank where
In
they're testing.
Ketchbrook.
in Ketchum?
Yes, they went to.
Hang on a second. What happened was the professor had a student, and they were talking about it as to why that one was always good, okay? And because the students come over and take the water samples, take them back and process.
Back to Utah?
No, they go
St.
to
Joseph's.
St. Joe's,
St. Joseph?
and they take them back, and then they go in the next day, because after
Yeah.
do the test, and it has to do 24 hours incubation, and then they do the reading. And it's always given a good reading. And somebody brought it up and says, gee, why is everybody else is different? You know what I mean? And that's good. So what this student wanted to do is come over and do an in-depth study. So what they did, and it's one of those pages in there, what they did is they went into the stream. I don't know how deep that they went in, and pulled dirt samples out, and they tested them. Well, bottom of the stream was clean. Under the stream, it was real bad. And they don't know if it was the fauna?
Vegetation.
The fauna or the vegetation, the stuff along the stream that was taking it out, that's in the water, but what gets in the water, you know, goes in deep. So what they did is that they did that, and we've got the results So that's why we're gonna put in another testing thing on
Windsville Pond.
Windsorville Pond, okay? And that way there, we don't know if it's coming out of Windsorville Pond and coming down, because it goes out of Windsorville Pond and the old, by the old Norcap dump. So we don't know if it's going down that way. So the whole thing is, that's why we're gonna add 2 more. I mean, it's still within our,
Is it ever serious, Dick? Is it ever not life-threatening, but something where
Yes.
you should be concerned about?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The 3 signs that we put up, one is a blue sign that says, go ahead, use the water, whatever you want to do. The yellow one says, we recommend that you only use the boat. Don't go into the water yourself, just go for boating. And the red sign says, stay away from here. We can't stop anybody, but that's the recommendation. And that's when the E. coli level is so high that you don't even want it on your boat to then bring into your garage or to your shed or whatever.
And of all the sampling you do, what percentage are the red signs?
Last summer, we had quite a few.
yes.
And the problem is that the sign is, first of all, the sampling is a picture. So right the time that it's taken, which is usually 10 o'clock on a Wednesday.
Yep.
5 minutes later, we could have a downpour of rain.
Yep.
And the whole situation changes. So you can't decide whether or not there is a pattern until at least 5 years. We're in our 3rd year. So once we get to 5 years, they can start to see whether or not it is rain conditions that may have affected it.
And
Whether
all
it's just the
samples are taken the
heat.
same day?
Yes,
Yes.
same day. So there's a heat indication, so the temperature, the ambient temperature, the water temperature, and then whether or not it rained within the last 24 hours. This study is also being combined with a study that UMass is doing based on climate change. So our information is not just staying local. It's part of what the state is getting, and it's part of what Massachusetts is getting for a bigger area. So we might be small potatoes, but what we're doing is very
Part of a
important.
database.
Very important. So we're hoping that you continue to fund. We also have 2 sponsorships that we send money to. The Connecticut River Conservancy and the Connecticut River
Rivers
Alliance. And they in turn feed us information as to what else is going on, what we need to be looking out for. And by us being part of it, we have more information of what other people are doing.
Just a quick question. You know, just thinking about the news through last summer and stuff, you know, it seemed like across the state, not that I have any data, but the news every night, it was, you know, well, this place is closed, and, you know.
Right.
There seemed to be a greater preponderance of that this past year than other years. Maybe it was just I paid attention a little more to what that was. I really don't know, but it seems to be everywhere. It's not just isolated
Correct.
here.
We did have it warmer last year.
Yeah.
Did that do it? We don't know.
Yeah.
Here is last year's, and the
Which
red
one?
line is where it's supposed to be. Now, this is the location of Broadbrook, Mill Street in East Windsor, and the months,
Oh, okay.
okay?
And that's a summer month, July is the tall one, is the high?
Yeah,
Yeah,
see how much
My
is
back
above
right
it?
now.
Yeah.
Now, if we go to a different location, see, they break it right down in locations, but we didn't have a red line.
They sample every month, including winter
Every
months?
week.
Well,
Every-
we have 2 tests that go on. One goes on
Year-round,
year-round,
monthly.
and that would tests like this, where the farmers put on fertilizer on their fields and everything else. And then this E. coli is specifically in the center here, right here in Broadway.
And that's done, and they're all done
That is,
every month of the year?
no, that's done May through October.
Okay.
Now here is, location is Old
Oh, Melrose Bridge.
Melrose Bridge. You see the red line where it is?
Yep.
Now this is for E. coli, all right? See where the line is and see
Yep.
how many times we were
Yep.
above it? So I mean, that's the way we get it from the school. We get a printout, in other words,
Weekly.
of the thing. When they do the test, the girls or the students come over here and they test on
Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning before they go to school. They get their samples, they refrigerate them and everything, and then they go to school, they do a partial test, and then the next day, generally about 12 or 1 o'clock, we get an email or a phone call or both, and then I go down and change the signs. Okay, so if the sign is a blue sign, everything's good. If the sign is a yellow sign, you shouldn't go in, but only in a canoe or a kayak or something like that. Shouldn't go in the water. And if it's a red sign, you shouldn't go anywhere near it. I've had people that go to me and say, "You're going to tell me I can't go in the brook?" No, sir. This is nothing more than an advisory thing, that if you got a cut on your leg and you're down walking in the river or something and you get some kind of sickness or something, you're not coming back and hanging the town. Okay, because we warned you. Yeah, and you know what I mean? And our records are, you know, right there all the time. So that's basically what we're doing in the testing.
When you say Ketchbrook, are you talking what part of Ketchbrook?
We do it here at
Rice Street.
Rice Street.
Yeah.
The dip before you go up to Master's house?
Okay, that's where that sample's taken.
Yeah.
Because you know where Ketchbrook originates?
Oh, yeah. Ellington.
Yeah.
And that's why we're gonna do one at the
Windsorville Pond,
At the
because that's
Windsorville
what it's
Pond,
for.
because we don't know if it's, whatever we're getting in the soil,
Yeah.
is it coming from down there or coming from the North Cap or where?
Yeah.
So,
So one thing that changed, it's probably 15 years ago now anyway, is that where Ketchbrook starts, which is up by Rothy's up there in Ellington.
Right.
You know where I'm talking about?
Yep.
Okay. And it goes through the swamp and it goes all that way. Well, it's probably, like I said, probably 15 years ago, when they built the homes on that Jonathan Lane, right on the East Windsor Ellington line.
Right.
That they took all of that water, from the drains, they piped that down the road into Ketchbrook, which I don't know how that was ever approved, putting water from another town into another town. But that's, comes into there as well. So I don't know if, the road salt, all that stuff that's up there is washing it, it makes some different, I don't know.
well, if it
Just
is,
as a-
and if it does, it is, and it shows up,
Yeah,
all right? We're not policemen,
yeah,
okay? But the whole thing is that, the college is gonna see it, or the
Yeah.
university, I should say, and if it shows up, just like somebody here on the river that got cows or horses or whatever have you, and if we're getting fecal matter from horses, and Joe Blow's got horses, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
We'll go over and say, this horse stuff is getting in, oh gee, I dumped my manure down by the stream. Put it on the other side of the lot, let it filter through and go through the normal way, and we're not creating anybody's problems, but we just want everybody safe, because there's a lot of people fighting the river, and we're open from Enfield line to South Windsor line for canoeing and kayaking. At least we try to keep it open. And so it's recreation.
Yeah, I remember there was a man when I was a kid, that he was a professor at UConn, his name was Dr. Hawkins, and I was out there and he was taking the samples and stuff, and he told me, it was up there on East Road, where the water goes under the bridge here, and he said, "This is the best water in the state of Connecticut right here."
We get poured got dirty.
That's a long time ago,
Yeah.
but I remember him telling me that. So, well, that's good stuff. That's good that you're doing that.
So,
The state doesn't pay to test it, huh?
No,
now, the state only tests swimming areas. They test Reservoir.
Yeah.
Okay, Reservoir Park, and they test that, I believe, weekly.
and Melissa Maltese compares what we have with what she gets from the state, just as a backup.
Okay. They match?
Mhm.
Okay.
We're just south of where they test for her.
Yeah. Okay.
In addition, our budget also has paid for printing river guides. So we have, in the kiosk, we have the guides there for anybody walking the trails. All right, so that, and it's marked, so that if somebody gets hurt and they call 911, they can say, I'm at bridge 3, I'm at bridge 4, I'm wherever. So we can get them help quicker than
That's a
if
good
they
idea.
just start walking 2.5
Sure.
miles to try and find.
Yeah, good.
That's some of what our budget covers.
I think the commission does a good job. It's a good
Appreciate
commission.
it.
We tried.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Laura, you're on deck.
I saw you down there with that hammer.
Yeah, I wanted to hit the building, but they had a better machine. That's what happens, technology, you know.
Yes.
You're missing part of your coat here.
Yep.
Hello,
Hello, good morning to you. Where's your candy?
it's in the room, you want me to get it?
No.
Are you tired?
No, we can do it.
Feeling like you need a little pick-me-up?
Just miss it.
Oh, well, I can get it. So, I am here to present my proposed budget for 18-19.
Done.
Want me to just kind of go through line by line and kind of work through it?
It's 1,411,100. Down plan.
You got it? Okay. All right, so this year I am asking for some unusual things, I guess. And in addition to our regular staff, we have a full-time planner, assistant planner, and zoning assistant, and a part-time clerk. So that's 3 full-time, 1 part-time. So with the changing times and the changing requirements of our office, I would like to ask for a full-time zoning enforcement officer / blight officer. Now that is kind of working with the building department, who really needs to have, or somebody needs to have, a blight officer. We in the zoning department, you know, we have to make zoning enforcement official decisions, do citations, notice of violations, and all of that.
What will that
So,
person do, Lori?
here, I'm gonna hand this out to you now. I love the slippery table. So things have changed. So I started here in 2004, and so I basically kind of looked back at some of the statistics. Back in 2000, our population was 9,818. In 2010, it went up to 11,162. In 2015, of course, this was a guesstimate, it was 11,387, and it is projected to go up to 12,650 by 2020. That's an increase of just over 2,800 people in 20 years, or 20 years. Our housing units have also increased from 4,078 in 2000 to 4,933 in 2015. And we know that that's going to go up in 2020. The 4,933 would be, you could add 213 units to that right now because West River Farms is being built. There's 69 single-family lots there. Calamar is 122 dwelling units. And Harvest View is about to start, and that's another 22 single-family lots. So this is just things that are already approved and are going to be built. So these are things that are changing. We have increased workload. We not only support the inland wetlands conservation and, well, actually the Inland Wetlands and Conservation Commission were split, so we now have 2 commissions where there was one. we support the Economic Development Commission, the Agricultural and Conservation and Historic Preservation have been part of our workload as well. The Agricultural and Conservation were not there when I started. And we are also doing more grants. We're getting more businesses coming to town, and we are getting an increase in permits.
Lori,
Now,
do you have a count on business, number of businesses in these same time intervals?
I didn't have any, I couldn't find any statistics on the direct
Commercial
but I'm
development?
still looking. I wanted to do that, but I didn't find anything that I felt was substantial.
Mhm.
Or, yeah, I guess substantial.
Can I just go back a minute? The 69 single-family development dwellings, that's for all ages?
Mhm.
Some of those will be
Yep.
childbearing age?
Those are single-family
families.
lots across the board.
The North Road 122, isn't that,
That's
that's
age
older.
restricted.
that's
Mhm.
what, age restricted meaning 55 and over?
Mhm.
Okay. And how about the Harvest View,
Single-family lots,
just like the,
like standard subdivisions.
okay.
So basically what I'm saying is that the workload in my department has changed since I started here, and certainly since 2000. The thing about zoning enforcement is that job was created as a zoning enforcement officer, wetlands agent. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, because we really needed somebody doing more town planner or assistant town planner type work, more studies, assisting with the change of regulations, we actually changed that title to include assistant town planner. And now I'm seeing the need that we really need to have somebody that is here consistently, somebody that could actually review the issue and be on top of it on a consistent basis, because things don't happen in a day with zoning enforcement. It's something that you just have to, call them, call the person, say, we've noticed that you've got this violation, we'd like to work with you on it. You try to do that for a month or two, and then they don't help, and then you say, okay, well, now we're going to send you a notice of violation. You're not trying to work with us, so we're going to send you a notice of violation.
Who does that now?
The assistant town planner.
His name is?
Matt Tiksinski. So then you do the notice of violation, and then another 30 days you might do a cease and desist order, and then ultimately it's a citation ordinance, and you go to a hearing officer for the fines. So I mean, it is a lengthy process to do even one zoning enforcement aspect. We have so many of them, and we can't keep on top of it. And it does seem that the town as a whole seems to be more interested in having zoning enforcement enforced, or zoning compliance enforced, and we're finding also that the blight also needs to be enforced. Now, we have an issue with the blight ordinance. I think that it needs to be revamped, and I think Rand would agree with me there. We've kind of gone back and forth as to whether this would be a good combination person. So the blight, which is more of a building department issue, versus the zoning enforcement, which is more of the planning department. But if we combined those two tasks with one person, I think we'd find a lot more success. It's very, very time consuming. You have to write letters, you've got to send certified notices out, you've got to respond, you've got to go back out and inspect over and over and over, and the people will come in and complain, and you need to listen to them because they have every right to complain. But it takes time, and it takes a lot of patience and note-taking, and you really need to make sure that you get it all right, especially if it is something that will go to court.
Mhm.
So,
How do you think this blight enforcement is more building department?
because it could be more structural. Let's say the house is in disrepair, maybe the roof has got a hole in it, or there's a lot more building code type issues that would be enforced through the blight. It also is, I guess, and I'm not sure if Ryan could type in here, but I think the blight ordinance also goes to grass Like if you've got your grass too high, if there's varmints or.
I'm thinking trashy looking.
Yeah,
stuff.
trashy looking,
It's
and it
white.
and that way, that kind of goes into both. So,
That's probably the lesser of the two jobs, is it not? Dealing with blight as opposed to,
I don't know about that, because it used to be that there was a housing officer, and his name was Steve Niblo, and he used to go out and he used to do a lot of this blight ordinance stuff, and then I think he left, and then actually I think he passed away, and we never really had anybody since, and then they tried to get the building official to cover it, and I don't think that there was enough time in the day for, I mean, Rand is one person, you know, we only have one building official, and his main task is to go out and make sure that the buildings are safe. The ordinance itself is faulty, there's disconnects between different paragraphs and things like that, so I'm not sure exactly how
Do you want to,
much more
Join
or
in?
less it is for zoning enforcement, but it definitely is substantial.
I think one of the things that the board should really take a look at is what we really try to achieve is compliance, not enforcement,
Right.
but compliance. Okay, right now we have a property maintenance code that has not been updated for 20 years.
Right.
Things have changed substantially in the 20 years since that original ordinance was adopted. Through the course and the adoption of that ordinance, and I'll give you an example. A model document, a model code was taken, and it was adapted through the Property Maintenance Code Board of Appeals, which is part of the prescriptive measures of dealing with this venue of compliance.
is that a state document, state?
It's an
document?
international document. It comes through what they call the ICC, or the International Code Council.
We don't even have that.
Through the adaptation of it, in this town, if someone's grass is 24 inches high or less, there's no violation. Well, I don't know about you guys, but when somebody's grass gets 24 inches high, it usually falls over. And it's not grass anymore, it's hay. Okay, so it's a very broad document that has no provisions in the ordinance other than writing a letter or taking it to the town attorney to move forward in a court action. I think what we're kind of looking for is guidance from the board and assistance in regards to updating our ordinances and providing a means so that when we have no other avenue, when no other avenue is left, we always have the big stick, and that big stick is the ability to place liens through our tax collector onto that property, along with the fines, and force that compliance. And right now, I can think of 4 right off the top of my head. How do these situations arise? Typically through 3 avenues: drugs and alcohol, mental illness, or economic. Which is why Lori and I have always tried to adopt the approach of compliance, not enforcement. Because you have to be very sensitive to what's going on in people's lives.
You do.
I have a gentleman right now in town, we've been 15 years with this issue. And now we've reached a point where protective services have been called. And now we've kicked it over to the state. I've had him served by marshals, North Central Health Districts, had him served. It's a mess. And we have to put these things to bed. If we don't, and we don't have the opportunity to, they just continue to cost the taxpayers money.
Could you speak a little bit to what the blight is versus the zoning? I mean, for zoning, it's height, size, location of signs, it's the uses, it's the location of structures.
Your
Or
automobiles is
or
part of your...
automobiles, or the
Abandoned
number of
automobiles.
animals, or something like
Abandoned
that. But
automobiles.
when you start talking about blight, I think you start getting more into the structural aspects
We
of
do,
the
we
site.
do, but we don't, because we also deal with the health aspect of it, okay? A perfect example of when things work was 2 years ago. We had an elderly lady in town. I was called by the police to please come to the house. When I did, to give you an idea, the garbage on the porch was such that the flies and the maggots were crawling everywhere. She wouldn't let me in the house. I called our human services director at that point in time. We called an ambulance. She was combative. I was able to look in through the back door. Because of the condition of the house, the garbage had rotted a 3-foot hole in her kitchen floor into the basement. They pulled a little over 350 bags of adult diapers out of the bathroom. All right, we got her transported, she was evaluated. We were able to find her an assisted living facility to go into, and less than a year later, she called the Director of Human Services and said it was the best thing that ever happened to her. She was fed on a daily basis, she had clean clothes and clean linens. That's one success story, and that's unusual because the stars aligned that night. So we have the health department that deals with conditions of hoarding, conditions of refuse garbage, the health aspect of this thing. I deal with the building aspect of things. If it appears the house is falling down, if it appears as though there's a danger, but there has to be a danger in accordance with the laws. Lori doesn't have the right, and I do not have the right to go onto a 1 or 2 family dwellings property without the owner's permission. It is only what we can see from the general public right of way. Okay, and the courts have been very, very clear with this.
But that's strictly single family. You do have the right to enter.
Businesses in normal
and
business
commercial.
hours, but we typically don't have much of a problem with our businesses because they rely on a clean, safe, and well-maintained property in order to attract business.
Sure.
But then there's sometimes we'll find the businesses are housing workers in their basement.
Or lackadaisical
or-
in their exterior housekeeping.
Right.
For the most part, though, it's not the businesses that present the problems to the community.
Let me ask it, I guess in my own mind, I don't see that this is a widespread problem in town. I mean, do you think there's 25 such locations, 50, 100, just a ballpark?
I think
To
presently,
size it.
Charlie, I think presently I could probably name off 15 easily that have been repetitious problems, okay? But we have other places that are borderline that probably are going to end up there eventually. And a lot of what we do is preventative, okay? If we can prevent something, and I don't mean from happening before it happens, but if we can bring to somebody's attention a situation that isn't so bad that it creates a completely different level of stress and economic duress in some conditions, in fact, in most conditions, then that works. But we feel a lot of calls from people, and I would say that probably 85% are validated through their concerns. I mean, I've gone to some people's houses and I've said, how would you like to live next to this? How would you like to be paying the taxes you're paying and have your neighbor's property look like this?
Do people who have a problem seek help, or is it are they normally neighbors who are looking to have something fixed?
Well, there's always the backstory, Andy, always. And sometimes it's been a long-running disagreement, with neighbors or with people, even families. It's not uncommon.
Yep.
But I think the most common cause of this is economic. I think the second is mental health. And I think the third, in today's world, primarily drugs and alcohol. And I think what happens is, I would equate it this way. We're all in a hurry today. You've gone out, you've collected the mail. You come in, you put that cable TV bill on the kitchen counter and you say, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to take care of that. And you walk past it the next day and you say, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to take care of that. And the next night you walk through and set something else down, and 2 months later you've forgotten all about that cable TV bill that's set on the counter until they shut the cable TV off.
Right.
It's part of the human condition.
And that's quite a bit with the blight, with
I
the
think we
zoning
need help. We're
enforcement.
both in agreement,
Yeah,
though, that
yeah.
we need help, and we're looking for the board for some type of support and agreement to help us move forward with this, because it costs the town a lot of money for us to keep approaching these same situations without a viable or affordable way to address it.
Is this something that could be contracted out, or do you need an employee?
I don't know who you would contract it out to. I suppose you could hire somebody as a contractor to do this.
Someone with previous experience, for example?
Well, you need to be certified zoning officer
Yeah.
and/or,
The-
is there some building?
Well, the
codes?
property maintenance code actually
I know.
creates a position as an appointment that the board would appoint in that, and that's pretty much a prescriptive requirement of that model document.
So, going back to what you said, what would be the job requirements of the individual? Not the job requirements, but what does that person have to have for credentials to do this?
Do you have a
Is it
written,
zoning?
another question, do you have a written description of what you're looking for?
Well, zoning enforcement officer is typically certified through the CASIO, Connecticut Association of Zoning Enforcement Officials. There's a lot of those people out there. They don't particularly like to do part-time work, though, unless they've just recently been retired. So that's why we were thinking maybe if we could combine the two into one position, they could become certified, you know, they hopefully are already certified, make that a requirement, that they're certified through CASIO, and then
Do you
have
have
some experience with the building codes.
Do you have to have that to examine for blight?
No, but for zoning enforcement, yes.
Okay, but if you're, so this person wouldn't just be on the blight issue then?
Right, it would be blight / zoning enforcement.
I think that,
Sort of general compliance.
and correct me if I'm wrong, Charlie, but I think what you're asking deals with the legal aspects of this position, only because everything we do is regulated by statute or ordinance, everything we do. Consequently, that individual has to understand that they're not a new sheriff in town. You don't walk around with a badge and a gun, and you don't quote unquote hammer people, okay? You go in softly, you have to use the statutes, you have to follow the law as a public official, and you have to follow a very tight prescriptive measure of enforcement. Otherwise, it's useless.
Or it results in legal action?
That's right.
Or it
Very well
results
said.
in the legal action, the time and the money that we put into
Sure.
it, Andy, being dismissed in court because we didn't follow the rules.
Yep.
So it's just something that we've been kind of tossing back and forth. I just see this as becoming a greater need and greater workload for the zoning enforcement official in particular, and most likely the blight official as well. We've got the transit-oriented development coming, we have the casino coming, the wrecking of the building today. With those two things coming, just in Warehouse Point alone, we're going to have interest, we're going to have increased housing, we're working on higher density housing there, so more businesses are coming. I'm already getting calls saying, you know, we're going to build this hotel and we're looking at doing this and that. So it's just gonna be more and more issues that could arise, whether it be signs or the structural integrity of a building. But if we don't have the time to go out and properly assess the situation, then those that are concerned and complaining about it get upset. And we feel upset because we can't help the person that is, the complaint has been.
Many times when we approach these issues, because of where we find ourselves, both budget-wise, staff-wise, and ordinance-wise, it's almost like triage. And we feel that we can only apply the next best fix to it and try to address it in a manner that appeases the situation for the moment, but it doesn't necessarily make it go away. It just makes it a little bit better until the next time.
Now, a few years ago, Rand and the zoning officer that was here at the time, Robin Newton, they went out and did quarterly reviews throughout town. Was it quarterly? Yeah, I think it was.
No, well, what we did is we divided the
you
town
divided
into
the town
quadrants.
into quarters and did an assessment. And Rand would go out and look at the blight, and Robin would go out with him, but pick up on the zoning enforcement issues, and then they would write letters together. That was incredibly time-consuming, and just writing the letters alone is time-consuming.
Writing the letters, tracking it, following up on it, and then dealing with the barrage of interest or updates that the general public needed.
Yep.
Extremely.
What do you have to pay someone like this that will have value to you?
From the zoning enforcement aspect, I see most ZEOs being paid between 45 and 50-ish. I could get some job descriptions that show that.
And that would be a split between the two?
We would have to work together to oversee the one person. But most of the time, we're gonna be out in the field, but then we'll have to find a spot for them to sit and actually.
Now, this person wears two hats. Is one hat one that you give them, and and is the other one that you provide?
Well,
The
zoning compliance is completely different from blight or property maintenance.
I don't understand.
Though they are cousins.
Yep.
Okay, they're not brother and sister, they're cousins. But the jobs do gravitate toward the same objective, which is a reasonable, orderly, and minimally kept community. Now, this isn't to say that you go after the farmer that left his tractor sitting out in the back field for the winter because that's where it stalled and he didn't have time. No. We're looking more toward the things that impact our tax base and our quality of life. And that quality of life is a very subjective definition, and it would really depend on who you talk to, which is why the community needs to have a minimum reasonable standard that we are all expected to follow. And that's not to say we all march to the beat of the same drummer, but that means there's an expectation that when you come into a neighborhood, it's going to help you maintain your property values. That property values, that makes a difference in regards to our brand list and our tax base.
But my question, Rand, was would, insofar as the zoning enforcement officer part of the thing is concerned, would that be basically something that Laurie directs, and would the blight officer part of this person be something that you would direct work for?
I think that would primarily be left up to the board and how we approached it. I think one of the problems is we need to pursue and update the property maintenance code. And that's going to be probably 4 to 6 months worth of work before it's ready to be presented to the board. Okay?
That would be done by this person?
It should be, yes, with guidance from Lori and myself, and I hate to say it, but quite possibly through the update to that, the existing property maintenance ordinance has a property maintenance code board of appeals. There's no one that currently sits on that board. That board's been unencumbered for a few years now. I know when the ordinance was written, the property maintenance code board of appeals was formed, and then they helped draft the ordinance, or the actual code itself, prior to adoption. I'd be more than happy to talk with the board at another time outside of the budget.
Yeah, that's probably a good right thing to do.
To give you my opinion in regards to what I think the path forward is. I'd be more than happy to.
Thanks for the background. I think it's really important that we understand that. But you're right, if we're going to get into more detail about how it's going to be managed and so on, then that's a whole other issue other than the funding.
What I did do is I'd spoken with Bob earlier this year, and he granted my request to order 2 up-to-date 2018 International Property Maintenance Code books. Now, these code books aren't cheap, but the reason for it is so that we can move forward, take a look at these books, and if the board sees fit to appoint a new property maintenance code enforcement officer, there's a template, there's a model document to start with. It's not to say it's the do-all, be-all, end-all, but what, in my opinion, it is, it's a wonderful base document for us to determine what parts of it fit best for our community.
And that is a compilation of Connecticut?
International, Charlie, that's Canada, Mexico, and the United States, although the United States is the only one that has set up and actually enforces the international codes.
And that would apply to these ones that...
Well, if we adopt it as a local ordinance, yes.
But it would have to be rewritten, wouldn't it, for our special needs, our requirements?
When you say rewritten, what it would be is it would primarily be edited. Okay? Edited so that the parts of it that we felt fit best for this community, and the parts that we didn't feel fit the best, we wouldn't include in the document.
Yeah, okay, makes sense.
So this was actually the last Board of Selectmen, last sitting Board of Selectmen actually had requested that Rand and I start reviewing some of these blight ordinances, and, you know, so it's something that the town needs to do. We haven't actually sat down and done that. I know that I've collected a few, and I think you've collected a few, but, you know, it is certainly something that if the town wants this to be enforced and to get compliance, we need to have something that's actually enforceable. So without that proper ordinance.
I would think that's right.
Yeah.
So
Has to be tailored to us.
So we wouldn't move forward with someone until that's all accomplished then, right?
Well, we're looking at next year, so, I mean, theoretically, if we could work on maybe getting the new ordinance in the meantime, we could perhaps get a new employee for next year. You know, there's all sorts of options here. There's part-time for both, or part-time for one or the other. But I think that we're both finding that our workload in-house is surpassing the staff levels that we have.
Now, zoning violations for this past year, do you have a count of what those were to what they were the prior year and the year before that? You're saying
I
you're having
don't
progressively
with me,
more.
but I could get that very easily.
And I guess I'm thinking that, when I'm thinking of violations, I know that you could have, I guess, I don't really know, but you could have 2 or 10 at one particular location of zoning violations, right?
Correct.
So-
Each one would be a violation in itself. Let's
Right,
say
so-
they've got a shed in the wrong place,
Yeah.
and they've got junk someplace else on the property. Those are 2 different violations.
Okay, if you could provide that it would be, you know, this location had 10, this location had 1, you know what I'm
Okay.
saying? So that gives you a little better idea that, at least for me, what do you think,
Okay.
Andy, in terms of knowing
I have an
how
older
much geo you have
spreadsheet,
to
Charlie.
cover?
I have an older spreadsheet that would be available if you would like to see it, and I think it would be primarily representative.
Yeah,
To give you both an idea, I have a house on Mahoney Road right now. And I've actually received calls at my house about this. Foreclosure. And it's been quite apparent that the attics have come in. They've stripped all of the aluminum siding off from the house as high as they can reach. There is a mortgage company currently involved. I cannot get the name of the lender, okay, that's involved in this. All I can get is the name of a property maintenance company. What these lenders have done, they figured out that they hire a property maintenance company to come in and secure the property. Then they study cleaning it up. At the end of the proposals to clean it up, they fire the property maintenance company and hire a new one. So that is a bait and switch game that these mortgage companies have played since the recession hit and since we saw such a large number of foreclosures, which means I can be on a single phone call. I think my longest right now is 42 minutes, only to be told we're no longer the property maintenance company. 42 minutes. That's a long time to persevere through the runaround.
It's like calling my doctor's office for a prescription. It is.
And it's not unusual to have somebody call in and speak to them for 20 or 30 minutes, and then they want to come in and talk with you. And these are all, complaint-driven conversations, and they have every right to be coming in, and you need to have that conversation, but it is really time-consuming.
I can see that.
The issue is real, okay? And their concerns are real and they're validated. They have every right, okay? I think what we've lost, to some respect, is the common courtesy of trying to maintain your property like your neighbor does. And in many instances, I think that we've kind of adopted a, it's my property, I have a right to do this. Well, you know what you do, but only to a point. When it begins to affect the quality of life of the neighborhood around you and affect the property values around you, that's detrimental to all of us as a community.
Yeah. Understand.
I have a question, Lori, on the sheet that you gave. These 69 single-family lots on Scannick Road, is that going to be like high-density?
They're small lots, they're about 7,000 square feet. They actually ended up being multifamily density. But we did a PRD, planned residential development, and was able to do a higher density, single-family lot subdivision.
So there's going to be a lot of people there then, in that small area.
Yes. That's under construction. That's,
Yeah.
Do they have one house up already?
I think they have 3.
Do they?
I think they're all models.
3 foundations in, one house will be ready for a certificate of occupancy within probably the next 30 days. The second house right now is 65 to 80 days out. They've just finished framing. The third house foundation is in and backfilled, and they'll go directly onto that. These are the first 3 models.
I was hoping to get models like they're building on Graham Road in South Windsor. Where the sign said, starting in the low 500s.
Ooh. Well, hopefully they're not going to be that high.
Starting.
Those are huge houses.
Yeah.
These are not going to be huge houses, but they're going to be large enough, but small lots.
Yeah.
So, not a lot of.
Well, with that density, you could have substantial of children coming out there also, couldn't you?
Yes.
Well, I don't know, to me, it sounds like that person is a real need, or else would continue to face, do it with our left hand, which probably isn't right.
Well, like I say, I think Rand and I have had a lot of conversations regarding the casino and the transit-oriented development and what that will be bringing. We both kind of feel, well, Rand's analogy is it's this tsunami and it's coming fast, and it's gonna hit, and we're gonna all be just kind of like, okay.
Well, just to give you an indication, and I've taken a look at 15 years of our grand list, just in terms of real estate. And in 15 years, we've averaged, though it doesn't show necessarily in terms of on that grand list growth, but when you do the numbers, it's an average of 3.3% a year.
Increase.
Yes, in our grand list. I have the documentation with me tonight. That being said, we've seen spikes and we've seen the shallows over the course of time. And what's happened is somehow we've lumped along and still have a pretty even mix in this community of low income, medium income, and upper income housing, of apartments, of single family, of 55 and older, and of family orientated dwellings. The previous assessor and myself sat down on more than one occasion and went over the numbers. This casino complex is probably going to be the most changing event economically this town has ever seen. It's a minimum of 20% immediate increase in our grand list.
Yeah.
And what we're looking at, Carol and I have estimated between a 5 and 7% annual growth for the first 12 years that casino is in operation.
What number?
Between 5 and 7% annually.
It'll double what we do today.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's ancillary businesses, hotels?
That's across the board to our grand list.
Yeah.
And
And
housing.
housing, yeah.
Businesses.
You take a look at the Route 5 corridor, and I've said this to Lori for years. God bless Southern Auto for the tax base that they provided to this town. But like many businesses, it may not go on forever. And it is a very large landholder around the Route 5 corridor.
Yep.
That being said, when you take a look and you see that our water pollution control plant right now is running around 55, maybe 60%, that area is ripe for major development because we can handle it. We're not going to be faced with the same problem Windsor Locks was, which meant a 500, or I guess you could say, what was it, $150 million upgrade to their water pollution control authority to take on any more development out on the Kennedy Road, the county road line. We're ready for it. And all Mr. Tribble has to do is sell a couple of parking lots down there
Yeah.
for that to happen.
When that plant was built 20 years ago, whatever it was built with a lot of foresight. It had a tremendous amount of capacity.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of large users left. Hamilton, a lot of larger users left, like the mushroom factory. Used
they
a
were
lot
the
of-
largest.
They used a lot of water, but they no longer are there, so the water usage went down
And
drastically.
water usage out of that building now is virtually nothing.
Yeah.
And it's fully occupied on both sides, so.
Okay.
So I will certainly continue to try to get you more valid information as to zoning violations and permits and things of that nature. So with that, I will just continue to move on. Okay. Professional services. Basically, I am actually going down, but there's a reason for that as well. So professional services is legal ads, which are statutorily required for any public hearing we have or any application we have. We have to file a notice of action in the paper, printing photos. So I always ask for about $4,500. Most of the time we don't use it, but sometimes we do. And if it's not there, we're still gonna get the legal ads. We have to have them. So, but then we also join North Central Conservation District for $2,000 every year, and they basically supplement our inland wetlands person. If we need some more expertise on an issue, we call them and they'll help us out. But then, we are, up until now, the EDC, Economic Development Consultant, has been in my budget as a part-time consultant person. And at this point, the first selectman is proposing a full-time economic development coordinator in his budget. So I've taken that out. However, if the full-time economic development coordinator is not added, then I would like to request the $50,000 for the EDC consultant part-time. It's
And how much was that, Lori?
50,000.
50,000?
Where is that in here?
Underneath the budget, it says department expense details under professional services. That's where.
Okay, but it's not in the lines above.
It is not, because at this time I'm not asking for it, because it really depends on whether or not the full-time person is added or not.
There's a $90,000 position in the selectmen's budget.
Right.
For EDC. So she's saying that if you don't
Yeah.
fund that, that she would like at least 50.
Do you know that was in there?
EDC consultant?
In here, yeah. And she had it?
Yes.
It's always been in my
It's
budget.
been in that budget for some time.
In fact,
Since
it
its
it
inception.
varies from 10 to 20,000 usually.
That's Roger, right?
Right, yeah, Roger O'Brien.
O'Brien. He's been,
He was there today, by the way.
Yeah, he did a lot in the initial consideration of that casino. You know,
Absolutely.
He was
He's
funny.
very
Yeah,
involved.
yeah, he was.
He was integral in the decision.
So there is somebody that has been in that slot as a part-timer,
Right.
and we paid him 50,000?
No.
No.
But we always ask for about 50,000. Last year we got 8, so,
Oh, okay.
We pay him by the hour too.
yeah,
so
we're paying by the hour.
I've forgotten how
It's
much. Do you remember how
been
much
up
an
to
hour it
15,000.
gets?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Normally, yeah.
Yeah. So, that is just a consideration. And I'm not sure how to work that, you know, at what point do I ask for that back? You know, at
Well,
what
I
point does
think we
the-
have to make
Yeah,
some
so once you make your
decisions.
decision. Supplies and equipment, pretty much staying the same. Travel, so last year, they gave me quite a bit of travel, but they took all of my education away, so I didn't use a lot of the travel this year. But the travel is for mileage reimbursement for out-of-town seminars and conferences, and when the car is unavailable, like right now, it is the engine light is on and we won't drive it. So we got to get back to the public works to see what's happening
What has
with
been
that.
your annual, or what is it year-to-date, and what does it normally run annual on your travel?
It depends. So the national conference is held in either the west coast, the middle of the country, or the east coast. So sometimes it's in New York, sometimes it's in San Francisco, or wherever. So it changes annually as to where the location is. So sometimes it's cheaper to go, sometimes it's not. But the problem is that I am required to maintain 32 continuing education credits. And this year there was absolutely almost no money for education, so I have gotten none of the credits this year, and I have 2 years to get them. So next year I have to get all of my credits. I might be able to get maybe 5 or maybe 10 just doing like 1 credit webinars here and there, but I usually go to the regional and I usually go to the nationals to get my credits.
And that
and
requirement
further
is
education.
from who now? Who do you
My
have?
job description. And the job description says that I have to maintain my AICP, American Institute of Certified Planners certification. And in order to do that, I have to get 32 credits every 2 years. And that's usually gotten through, that's required from the American Institute of Certified Planners.
Lori, where do you travel for $1,500? My God,
Well,
you can hardly go to West Hartford for that.
I usually try to find really good rates. If I book early, you could do it. And I usually share a hotel room with somebody to make that cost, less. And I hardly ever charge for food or anything, so it's, I try to make it as minimal as possible, but this year I'm not going. I didn't go to the regional is either in Massachusetts, Rhode Island or Connecticut.
To get maintain your certification, is that something you can do locally, or do you have to travel to these events to do that?
It's just really hard to get 32 credits locally. I've been, like I said, I might this year be able to get, maybe 10 credits from, a webinar here or a seminar there, but I don't have it. At this point, I've had to use most of the money for Matt Tiksinski because he's new and I had to get him certified through zoning. So he's going with the zoning classes and he's going to all these new things that he's never been to, so.
Can any of this be done online?
Very little.
Very little.
Is it possible? It's possible. It's not very feasible.
Well, I'm just thinking, a lot of colleges, community colleges, on non-tech, for example, I've taken several courses online with them, and they're good courses.
Yeah, but it has to be AICP certified.
Yeah, I understand that.
So, and the CCA, the Connecticut chapter of it, is really trying to get more and more courses locally that you can get credits for, but, it's not just the credits though. I learn a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When I go to these things, I work. I am at all of the sessions, and at night, half the time I'm in bed early because I'm exhausted from going to these classes. And if it wasn't for these classes, I wouldn't have been able to do a lot of the things I've already done.
Yep.
So that's where I learned all
So
of
it's the AI, what was it again, AI?
AICP, American Institute of Certified Planners. So, we're members of so many different organizations, and that's another thing, is, it's like in the planning field, we have to kind of be a little bit of everything. So we've got to be wetlands agents, we've got to be zoning officers, we need to go to Connecticut Federation of Planning and Zoning Commission sessions. We're going to one, and the entire Planning and Zoning Commission is going. And they talk about local planning issues.
Where's that located?
That's going to be located, that's in Plainville at the AquaTurf. So a lot of it is local, but a lot of it is not. But, we try to be members of CETA, I need economic development. I need, we work with DEEP, and International Council of Shopping Centers, Connecticut Association of floodplain managers, green builders. We are involved with all of these different aspects, and if we don't go to these sessions and seminars, we don't learn about what's happening locally and currently. So like I say, the credits are one thing, but it's really the learning experience is pretty critical. And now that Matt is here, and he has his master's in planning, and he'd like to join APA and CCAPA, and that's American Planning Association and the Connecticut chapter of that. So as he gets more involved in his career, the rates go up. Right now he's being treated as a new student, so these are things. So therefore, my education and dues has gone up because last year it was cut drastically for the first time in 14 years that I've been here. But these are necessary credits and learning experiences that we need. Do you have any other questions on any of that?
Just the capital.
Pardon?
The capital.
Oh yeah, capital purchases. Yeah, once again, I'm asking for money to renovate the planning office, and pretty much every office in this building has been renovated but mine and Rand's. So for some reason, we never get any funding for it.
You have pictures of it.
You had
I
a
do
sketch
have
you put in
pictures,
here.
yeah, we've investigated different layouts and additional, there's a picture here I got. Different layouts and, actually maybe painting the office and things like that.
What's that one you have here?
This one, I think I included it.
Oh.
Is it
I
the
have a
one-
lot of them.
This the one you have?
Oh, yeah, here's one.
Okay.
So I have 3 different possible layouts that we were working with, but I kind of stopped working with the gentleman because there was no money to do anything.
Lori, can that be done incrementally? Your office, your office, Bob's, they're kind of leave an impression for our town with anybody coming in to, you know, to think about locating here. And your office is not attractive.
No.
And I think something should be done, I really do. And my question is, if, you know, budgets are always tight, and this kind of thing can only be considered discretionary because you can get in and do business the way it is. But is this something we could fund on an incremental basis so that we could do it over a couple of years or more?
Well, in order to paint it, you have to move all the furniture.
Yes.
And if we move all the furniture and then put all the same furniture back, then we're going to be paying the guys to do a lot of extra work.
Is there much new furniture including there?
Most of it would be probably new. It depends on which layout we went with. And whether or not we needed to create another spot for an additional employee.
You would not need any more floor space. It's a reallocation of the floor space you have.
Right.
How many square feet do you have there? Any idea?
The number I have it written down on the original sheet that I have, but I don't recall about that.
Who did the layouts?
It's the same gentleman that did the layouts for all the other offices. Do you
Transfer
remember?
Enterprises.
Pardon?
Transfer Enterprises.
Yeah, Transfer Enterprises, yeah.
Okay.
But this was, we did this 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, maybe? And I ask for this every year and every year. But meanwhile, every other office in the town hall has been done.
But you say that if it gets painted, you put the same furniture back, but it's the town employees that do this, right?
Right.
Okay.
But you would acquire new furniture, some
We
new
would
furniture.
certainly need to acquire some new furniture.
Like
We do have a hanging
the conference
file.
room table, you don't have that.
The table that we have there, we might be able to reallocate. The chairs, I literally have taken from the garbage. They were allocated for garbage and I grabbed them so I could have chairs in my office. So none of them match. They don't stack. So I mean, we try to recycle, we try to use what we have, but, you know, I've been here for almost 14 years now, and it's pretty much, I mean, we did get some new office furniture, but for the most part, the office is still the same. And it's never been painted since it was reallocated from emergency services. I don't know how long ago that
How you
was.
feel about it, Bob, and I don't know where you get the money for it.
Well, and that's what
But
I would
it's
say.
something that really
I agree with you.
is a first impression of
I
what the
think,
town
I
is.
think the money should come, in one place is well, obviously, they talk about CIP, because this is the capital improvement, but you can take less than $20,000, certainly, even more than $20,000 from a supplemental appropriation, and that's a one-shot deal. It lowers the fund balance, which is probably not a bad thing. So that's certainly the option that comes to my mind. We can do this and without affecting the budget, without going to the taxpayers and actually, so there's many reasons. We should be lowering the fund balance a little bit, and you gotta be careful. If you take, right now, we're taking $450,000 from the fund balance and calling it revenue for the next year. That's like taking money out of your bank account and saying, oh, I got an increase in my pay this year, you know, I can afford a bigger house. No, you can't, because it's not coming next year, so it's a revenue hole. So if you use it for capital improvement like this, that's a good thing to do.
I think it is. You know, everybody today at the demolition beginning said we are starting a new era, and we really are. I think the casino will bring things we don't even know about to
And
our,
also
to our
the second
town.
rail there in Windsor Locks.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and their building, Montgomery building is
Yeah,
bringing 160 units right across the road from us, so there's growth starting and there will be growth, I
yeah,
think.
and
And we're about to
As I-
start our
as I
grant,
said-
which is my next topic.
it's not your office that makes the impression for the town, it's Lori's.
Yeah, I think I gotta clean my office, you're making me feel good.
That too.
It's 15,000, okay. Where does that estimate come from? Did somebody give you a price? And
I actually got a couple prices from the other offices, from the treasurer and the tax collector's office, costs about that. So, because I didn't know what to base this on, because it really depends on whether or not I could even get money, so. But that's about how much it costs. When Kim Ward was here, I was talking to her about it.
Do you have a preferred plan? We put this in our book.
Yeah, like I said, there was some things that were wrong with this, like they covered the window with the file cabinets. So, I mean, so I haven't come up with the plan that I think would be best, but probably there's one that has some stations up front we kind of liked, and I think that was the second one in your packet. But probably this last one, because it has an actual counter up front, and then we still have three cubicles, room for files, and then we still have a meeting room in my office.
I think that's the one we have here,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Oh, I gave you a bunch of them, so, I thought I had, but yeah, this one.
Yeah, it's not exact. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
You gave
yeah,
it.
yeah.
You gave it.
That's it, yeah.
Or close to it.
I think that's the most realistic. And then there is a possibility of maybe putting in a cubicle where a flat file is, if need be, but
really what I think should be done here, at least it could be done without any cost, is that we connect with an office furniture company and say, we're thinking about doing this. This is the 3 layouts that we have, and what do you recommend? What would be the least expensive of these layouts? Because every angle is a cost. Now,
yeah.
every piece, I'm pretty in tune to this because I've done too many office moves, and all the furniture, all those things. And so I think if we do that, we'll have directionally how much this really is, and where they would come in, take it out and install it.
that's what this company does. So they come in, they give you an estimate, or they give you a layout, and then you talk about an estimate. But like I said, I just kind of gave up on it after a while, because I kept asking and asking and asking, and was denied, so.
Okay, I'd get a couple of them to do that.
Okay.
So that,
Yeah,
because they can vary tremendously. And
Okay.
what brands of furniture are they talking about?
I think most of it is used furniture that they have, but I don't know that.
Okay.
So I could, give you that, if you think it's better to go through supplemental appropriation for that.
Well, I think we're going to have to talk about it. We're going to talk about it on the 8th.
Okay.
And make some recommendations to the Board of Finance and see what
So,
happens.
somebody else, Lori, might have a completely different view, a different company. It depends on who the designer is. That would maybe something you like a whole lot more.
Yeah, this is just a company that
Yeah,
the town
yeah.
has utilized over and over and over. I think they probably give us a discount, I guess.
They all give discounts. Believe
But
me.
I agree, that's fine, I could look up some different
Yeah.
vendors. Okay. I also have all of my boarding commission budgets. I really have nothing to change, so I'm not gonna go through any of them, but that would be,
What's the number on those?
810-200, 810-300, 810-500, and 810-600.
6.
Tab 6.
It's running page 2.
So these, basically, I asked for recording secretary and education and dues. Recording secretaries are statutory, we have to have somebody taking minutes. And education dues is, I mean, they're minimal as it is, for the most part.
And how much do you pay a meeting?
It depends on the type of meeting.
Oh, so yours. Okay, the 2 meetings. Oh, I see, you got it, 125. I see it now.
Right. So like zoning board of appeals, it's $100 a meeting. Planning and zoning is $125 a meeting. Economic development is $75, and inland wetlands is $125. And that's whether the meeting is 5 minutes or 5 hours. That's what they get paid.
The zoning board of appeals, the education and dues, is that a requirement that you have 500 there?
Actually, we kind of meant to have that in the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I think it just accidentally got into the Zoning Board of Appeals, because the Planning and Zoning Commission tends to go to the classes more than the ZBA. So, I mean, I wouldn't mind switching that from,
Okay, so it should go up to there then?
yeah, like maybe 200 to the ZBA and 500 to the PZC. There's more opportunities for training for the PZC than there is ZBA.
Okay.
In Economic Development Commission, what is are the professional services?
So
It's
that
prepaid.
is the meet and greets, the small business assistants.
You do plan to have a meet and greet again this year? Was it last?
If we could get a quorum and a full board, I'd have a better way of answering that, but I'm guessing yes. But we didn't have a quorum for many months.
Yeah.
What does that mean, meet and greet?
So every year they tend to have what we call a meet and greet, and we invite all the businesses, and we just have like a kind of light fare and cash bar, and we have most of the people from the town, the board of selectmen, different commission members and stuff, and then the businesses could come in and just kind of talk with the officials. A lot of times we'll have somebody from Metro Hartford Alliance or Department of Economic and Community Development or SERC or somebody come in and kind of give a state of the state or, you know, some lecture on something that's economic.
Where do you hold that?
Numerous places. The last few times it's been over at Merlot by the water.
Okay.
So, but it's been held at other places. It's been held at Renaissance,
A long time ago.
not Renaissance,
Nutmeg?
Nutmeg. But it just, it varies from
And
year
how
to
many
year.
businesses do you have come in numbers? I know people is different, but businesses.
Sometimes quite a few, probably 50. Sometimes it's down to 20. So it depends on the time of year, you know, just what it depends on.
Publicizing too and reaching out to them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, do you go to, like in the industrial park, there's a lot of compartments there of
Mhm.
businesses in those buildings. Do they all get invited, each individual
We
one?
usually send it out through the chambers, the 2 different chambers, and we'll put it on the website and things like that. Usually when we have a speaker, we get a bigger draw.
Yeah,
Some businesses can't come at night, so
yeah.
we've thought about maybe having it in the morning. Andy was on the commission when we were kind of going through this, trying to figure out what's the best time, because I don't think you could really come up with the best time for all businesses, just because they all vary, so.
Just as a matter of interest, when I was on the Economic Development Commission, and I went out to talk to businesses in town, I think I told you, talked to people in Windsor,
Yep.
South Windsor and Enfield, that deal with economic development. And in Enfield, they have something similar to meet and greet every single month.
Oh, okay.
In South Windsor, they do it like every other month. And I did not ask that question in Windsor, but they do it more frequently. And they maintain it, that with time, if they do it correctly with the right kind of speakers, and even if it's just, you know, local people like Bob and you or I or Laurie or whoever, you start building up a cadre of people who would like to come and listen to what the town's future is, you know? So, meet and greet once a year is kind of a minimal activity, and again, you know, we all point at the casino as being the Great White Hope, but maybe someday we could consider the fact that that is an outgrowth of the casino, the fact that we're bringing new businesses in and we want to keep them interested in what's going on in town.
Now, let me ask you, you know, you say you send it out through the chamber? Okay,
Invitations, yeah.
okay.
Sometimes.
Do people think that that is then put up by the chamber? Because some people, you know, they just don't want to get hounded to become members of the chamber. Is
I
that-
don't believe so. It's just a good source of mailing lists, and sometimes they'll co-sponsor it. Maybe they might even donate, you know, $50 or
Okay.
something towards the event.
Also, the assessor knows what the businesses are in town,
Right.
so
Right,
they have another mailing list there.
Yeah, we do that. And unfortunately, it has varied over the time. Sometimes we've given out awards for new businesses or an expansion of businesses, and that was kind of the focus. We don't tend to get a lot of people other than those that are receiving the awards there, though, unless we have a good speaker. So they've experimented with different things, but the meet and greet tends to be pretty popular as long as we have a good speaker,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
And, you know, and it costs money to have the little events, because we don't like to charge people, so.
Right.
But I think people do like, the businesses do like to come out and meet the Board of Selectmen.
And the other businesses.
And
too.
meet each other.
And meet each other, it's a good networking event.
I like that.
We need to do it again, and I think we're starting to get our Economic Development Commission back on track, and we're getting
Here's
some
some.
new members, which is really good, so.
And people who seem very interested.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
When did you hold it last time?
You know, the last one I think we had was the one that we had to welcome the casino. So it was really more for MMCT to come and meet
Okay.
everybody. So that was pretty popular, but we did sponsor that.
Okay.
I
And a lot
think
of
that's the
people
last one we
showed?
really had.
I think, Lloyd, that was in February of 2016,
That was the last one?
I believe so.
Yeah, that sounds about right, yeah. We didn't have anything last year.
I'm thinking, best time is later spring and early fall.
We had an extensive discussion about that. The
Yeah.
last one I was
Yeah.
involved in was in August, if you recall,
Yeah.
because the weather was good.
Right, but so many people are on vacation.
You know,
But there's an issue with all of them, you know?
Yeah, there is, but I like the idea a lot.
Yeah. I think that we, you know, the last one with the MMCT, that was just, that's when they wanted to have it. So we accommodated best we could.
Okay.
So unless you have any other questions on the commissions?
Good.
I just wanted to clarify, Laura, you were changing planning and zoning to the 500?
Right,
instead
and,
of 200,
and
ZBA to
200.
200?
Yeah,
Okay.
you know,
yeah. I think it got mixed up a while back and we just never really changed it. That would be good.
thank you, Ron.
Okay, Marty, do you want to talk about that resolution while you're sitting here, or do you want
No,
to?
let Ran go,
Okay.
I'll reorganize my papers. Thank you very much.
You gotta do a lap anyways, Laurie.
Pardon?
You gotta do a lap anyways.
I know, I do.
Yeah,
I need to-
get your exercise.
I'm impressed you're
I know,
doing
you've been
I didn't even think
there for an
about
hour
that.
sitting. She's getting
It was
stiff, I
well
can tell.
standing up.
You wait till you see me stand up.
And why are you here?
So what would you gentlemen like first tonight, the good news or the bad news?
Always the good news first.
The good news is we're growing and growing and growing. I do have something up to date for you.
It's
Peg,
411.
I know you want some of this as well.
Tab
I-
2. Towards the back.
I was thinking.
Thank you.
This is up to date, one page, and that's up to date, as of today. One page. I know you gentlemen have received this as well. And this is just have a couple of grammatical updated, just in terms of format. Okay. That is well, sir. What we are looking at overall from fiscal year, the adopted fiscal year 18 to the fiscal year 19 request is a just under 105% increase in terms of the total budget. If you'll notice, at this point in time, I did the numbers in our office today, and right now we've generated a little over 159% of the projected revenue for this year. So we projected.
How did you do that?
We projected 200,000, Andy, and so far our revenues are 318, over 318,000. That is basically unanticipated growth in business. That is the economy starting back up again.
Could you repeat that a little slow?
That's okay.
It's down here in the
Where?
second paragraph.
Second paragraph.
I just want to write it on this sheet. Oh, it's here
Yeah,
somewhere?
second paragraph,
All
Charlie,
right.
okay?
So so does that include Calamar then, the 318?
That does include
And
Calamar.
how much was that?
To date, and make note, to date, it was $124,000 based on their estimate.
Okay.
However,
Did you
I
get a
will-
check for that? or-
we did,
Okay.
but
And that's for fees?
that is for a building permit application fee.
Yep.
That being said, as is typical of projects of this size, typically they come in and they undervalue these projects. Consequently, the building code allows me to require an affidavit of final cost that provides me with those sworn and attested numbers. There will be no variation in that requirement.
And how do you get that final cost?
That final cost comes from the architects, the engineers, and the
The actual
developer.
cost of construction?
That's correct. I can require the actual contracts for each subcontractor. Everything that goes on with that building, the building code allows me the opportunity to examine every piece of that cost if I feel the project is undervalued.
Mhm.
I think that when these guys come in, and I don't mean specifically Calamar, but I mean any large-scale development, they come in with the best of hopes, with primarily a boilerplate assessment, and it's not very often that you'll see a project of this scope and magnitude come in exactly what they've said it will.
And normally it comes in excess of?
Exactly. So I would expect, and if my experience is such that it's on the mark, I would expect probably, I'm going to say an additional $40,000 coming in at the conclusion of this job, but that won't be this fiscal year.
Yes. It's interesting. That had escaped me. You pay for yourself. You pay your own way.
The building department has been fortunate to structure its budget and produce revenues with the exception of 1 year for the past 15 years to provide for its budget and its costs.
How's that compared to other towns, do you know?
Well, when you consider the fact that this year, West Hartford will bring in excess of $3.8 million.
Far in excess.
Well, yeah, but they have a much larger, they have 7 to 9 inspectors coming and going at any given point in time.
I was going to say, against what expense line?
Exactly.
That
So-
might be $1 million all total.
Oh, I think it exceeds. I think that their budget based on vehicles, based on all things considered, Charlie, I can have a firm number on that tomorrow.
I'm just curious, you know.
We have, to my knowledge, I have the numbers in my office, but to my knowledge, in 15 years, we've returned after budget, I believe, a little over $2.6 million to the community in 15 years.
Well, you have a lot of work ahead of you with West River Farms and
Our
Like Laurie mentioned.
our plate has been full all along, but we've managed it. To give you an indication, with West River Farms, with the anticipated casino, both of these structures exceed what we call threshold limits. Those threshold limits allow for the special inspections to take place on these. It's not meant to supplant any municipal building department's inspection requirements. What it's meant to do is to provide enhancement to it, i.e. soils, concrete testing, and there's any number of different avenues to test concrete for moisture content, calcium, slumps, admixtures, water. So, and all of these, on these large projects, special inspection services come in at the cost of the developer. So there is no cost to the community for these. In specific to this, I've gone through the specifications of most of them at this point in time, and I am going to be requiring a couple of additional special inspections based on the occupancy and the construction type that's taking place with this building.
that's Calamar.
That is Calamar, not the least of which will be, and I have notified them of this, that they will be bringing in a professionally licensed draft stopping, fire caulking, and fire stopping subcontractor or inspection service for this structure. And that is one of the most prudent measures the community can take to protect these structures from a fire event. It's critical. And when we have the number of people that are going to be living in this structure, the fact that it's 3-story, and it's not going to be completely residential. There are mixed uses within this structure.
Really?
Yes.
They'll have stores and shops and whatever in it, or?
There will be a
office in it?
salon, there will be a chapel, there will be a billiards room, there will be 2 laundries, there will be a community room with a residential kitchen installed, there'll be a business office, there will be mechanical rooms on each of the floors. Consequently, it doesn't necessarily fall under the guidelines of strictly residential.
Rand, when they're building something like this, and this is a question out of ignorance, do you have somebody who does things like check slump ratios? Do you have somebody who does an analysis of the sprayed-in insulation? Is it sprayed-in insulation or is it matte insulation?
That is the special inspectors that the developer, what happens is the developer, through their specifications upon submittal of their application, Andy, provide me with and to give you an idea, the document that came in from Calamar is 2.5, 2 3/4 inches thick. I go through those specifications. Of particular interest to me are what they are requesting for special inspections, okay? And then what the code allows me to require. And those requirements are based on the use and occupancy, the construction type, the occupant load, whether it's a fully sprinkled or an unprotected structure. So you have to take a look at the individual project and base your determination of special inspections on all of those factors. There is no one size fits all.
But does the contractor provide you that information from a certified engineering firm?
Yes,
Or do you have to
absolutely.
go out and hire
No.
an engineering firm?
They are required to provide me with the name and the addresses and the qualifications of who they propose for these special inspectors. And each one of these special inspectors has to be certified and or licensed within their respective profession. And the developer bears the cost of this. There is no cost to the town.
So, Kelmar, where is this located now?
Up on Route 140,
Okay.
just before Killings,
Field driving.
Okay,
past the old emission station,
okay,
right sandwiched in there.
okay, on that same side?
Correct.
Okay, and how many people will be there?
Well, there'll be 121 units. There'll be obviously a property manager that will be on site during normal business hours. It's a mixture of 1 and 2 bedroom, Charlie. So I think that a reasonable number would be 160 to 180 people.
Okay, and then the one that's on Scannick Road?
That development, if you have 69 single-family houses, you can figure on average 3.25 per home, I believe. Consequently, at
200.
that's 224
Yeah,
people in 69 single-family homes.
okay. That's a big jump between the two in terms of numbers of people. And just flash back to the capacity of the sewer plant. They're gonna be able to handle that as well as the casino?
Oh, absolutely, and
As we said, it was like 60-some% used now.
what happens is, as we approach projects like this, we have pre-construction meetings with the developers and with the people that propose these projects. As part of that, we bring in Water Pollution Control Authority superintendent, who talks with these individuals about what their units, the number of units that they're going to be using, what the cost of those units are, meaning the sewer user fees and the actual units, the water units, everything's based on gallonage. So in regards to projects like this, these individuals understand the upfront cost, and it gives the WPCA an indication of what the effect on the availability of these units are at the plant. And these units have already been included. So we haven't got past 60% capacity, even with these units coming in.
They have already been counted.
They have.
Okay.
When you stop and think about that 40% of that plant is available for expansion, we're talking massive numbers. We're not talking a small amount. We're talking it could easily accommodate something like the Enfield Mall. Easily. Okay? And still have reserve left.
I guess in my mind, I just don't want us to get to any situation where, you know, if you look at the Scannick Road and you're gonna get, what, at the high side, 350,000 there in property tax, right? Say at 5,000 a unit, right? That would be on the high side. And that if we run short of space in the sewer plant for something like a casino that's gonna give you 5 million, then we need to curtail those projects, you know, without having to spoil our capacity. I know what you're saying,
Yeah.
it's okay.
But we're
Moving
fortunate
forward.
in the fact that the WPCA, or the Water Pollution Control Authority, at this point in time, is an autonomous quasi-governmental agency, no longer associated with the budget here in town. So as they move forward as an independent governmental agency outside of our budget, The only factors that would come into play is when we actually come in and assist them. And when I say assist, I mean assist them with the bonding as the primary governmental agency, to my knowledge. Meaning their fees now are structured to take care of, they've just gone through a fee increase in the last year and a half. They went from $4,995 per unit up to $6,000 for a sewer connection.
Yeah, we should get some, legal
6,500.
clarity on that, so that, at some point, if we do get towards that, we're not looking down the barrel like Winslow Locks is of $150 million.
I've encouraged what's called a build-out at this point in time, so that we can take a look at the availability of developable commercial properties, okay?
Yeah.
And base what we have left for fixture units
That's exactly
for our
right.
future. And we do that build-out, so we know when we're close to approaching critical mass.
Yeah, we need to work on a 5-year plan here, and, that's a critical component of, only because of the tremendous expense it is to, expand that. And
I've
it just-
talked to them recently, Charlie, and they say they have a great amount of capacity.
Yeah.
They don't even see the casino putting a substantial dent in
Oh,
it.
that won't affect, the casino won't have any effect.
They were talking about the casino maybe hitting it for something less than 5%.
But we should have documentation to this.
We'll have an answer to that question. I
So
don't think that's
that
a
we
difficult-
do, like I said, I don't want to be Winslow Locks, but somebody in Winslow Locks, I think they were looking at things and just missed something.
Yep.
I think the biggest need that my department faces, biggest immediate need right now, is that within the next 60 days, we will actually start construction of the Calamar project. All right, so, and that project is definitely going to require that I have some assistance.
Let me go back with you just a minute. Walmart was a big project. I have no idea, and you probably have a feel for it, what the magnitude of difference between the casino and Walmart was from a drain on your resources.
Walmart was, there again, another threshold structure, Andy. However, totally different beast, different type of structure as it went up. And we were thick in the middle of the recession at that point in time. The only thing that kept the revenues alive in our department was that particular project. We watched the housing market shut down almost overnight. And to give you an idea, there were actually 2 projects that kept this town and our building department above water. One was the mansions at King and Ridge, the Chapman project, which was structured out over 3.5 years, and that was 220 units, 22 buildings plus the clubhouse plus the maintenance building. So, and as that progressed along, that provided us to not experience the severe and dramatic stoppage of work that other communities felt. About the time we wrapped that project up, Walmart came along. And other than the occasional swimming pool, the outbuilding, the addition that was being built, there was really a money crunch. So timing being everything,
Yeah, that was good.
I think that my records are such that I did, Walmart, I can tell you exactly. From the day I issued the permit to the day I issued the certificate of occupancy, that was 13 months and 5 days. In the 13 months and 5 days, I performed a little over 365 separate and individual inspections at that site, and many were unannounced because much of that work took place after dark, on weekends, and I mean 7 days a week that project rolled. So I might be out there at 10:30 on a Saturday night. I might be out there at 5 o'clock on a Sunday morning. This is what it took to get the job done because I had no help. And that project had to roll. In the same sense, that's all Gertis, or I say Gertis, it's all steel trusses and uprights, and the outside walls are just a flowable panel. So it's one big box, that's all it is. The freezers all came preset. To give you an idea, in Walmart, the entire electrical service for that store was set in place before the back walls went up, and it came in a shipping container, all self-contained, okay? They actually had to cut a hole in the top of it to provide the required sprinklers that area required. But that was as easy as bringing in all of your primaries from the transformers, going up through the floor into a hole in the bottom of the shipping container, and away we went.
So it's kind of a learning experience for you then?
I'd seen it before.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Go
We
ahead.
have excellent training, we have excellent classes, and I've, in 15 years, Charlie, attended over 1,200 hours of classes. I'm required 90 hours of credited continuing education every 3 years in order to maintain my license. That's more than a school teacher with a master's degree.
Well, okay, maybe let's get into the numbers here.
Go ahead. As we take a look, our department has, for a number of years, needed a full-time permit clerk as opposed to a part-timer. We've reached the point of growth, of regulation, and of business where we really do need it. I think if you take a look back on the building department's budget, if we don't need to spend it, we don't. If we don't need it, we don't ask for it. If we don't get it, then we just go back and try to figure out how we can limp along. And that's just the way the world works. So we don't complain, we just do it.
Is that, when you say you have a part-time permit clerk now?
I have a part-time permit clerk now.
Okay. And that's what's up here in that
Correct.
you have a budget of 16,000, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And you'll use all that up for the year, the 16?
Well, that limits us to a limited number of hours, and we have
Right.
to make arrangements so that when the full-time clerk goes out on vacation and is sick, we can provide the coverage in the office.
Oh, okay. But how does it go to 73 then?
What that 73 is on the salary part-time, that's the part-time inspectors that I'd be looking for next year. And as we come down through, we take a look at this salary part-time, down below under the department expense detail, Charlie, bottom of the page.
Yeah.
2 part-time licensed inspectors. I'm looking right now at 19 hours a week. The DOPE is an acronym for duration of project employee.
Yeah.
And if I am hopeful I can hire a part-time licensed inspector for $30 an hour. To give you an idea, the numbers that I'm putting together right now for contract run anywhere from $80 to $150 per hour for contract inspectors, as opposed to part-time. Now, part-time is no benefits, except for, what is it that's required by federal law, Gail, on a part-time 19-hour-a-week employee?
You talk about sick time?
Yes, I think that's what I am talking about.
It would be after they worked 680 hours, so
Yeah.
probably wouldn't even come into play.
Yeah.
Are you just covering the casino and the building of the casino?
No, this doesn't have anything to do with the casino at all, nothing.
Okay.
This is where we presently stand with what's on our plate.
Okay. I'm a little confused, but I think I'm getting it. In this salary full-time, okay, for the year you have 131. Your request is for 181. Is that taking the part-time that you currently have, making that person full-time? Okay, and that's why it's gone up from that to this?
Yes,
right?
yep,
That's a clerical employee
correct.
of what level? Do you know? Is that a 3?
A level 3 or a level 4, Gail. I'm not completely sure. I have it on my desk.
Okay, that, I said that wrong. So that's taking the one that was part-time and a salary part-time line, moving it to a full-time, and it's in that 181 line,
Correct,
right?
correct.
And the salary part-time, the request is 73, and that's for the 2 part-time inspectors.
Correct.
New employees,
Part-time duration.
new employees, part-time new.
Yeah,
Yeah.
part-time new
Now I
duration
get it.
projects.
Now
Yeah.
I get it, okay.
And are you talking about just Calamar, is that?
That's, well, Calamar and,
Western
Well, that's
Farmers?
thank you, yes, Western Farms. Well, and I would imagine, from what I've been told, it will probably also spill over into the, what's the name of the project out on Clark and Middle?
Harvest View,
Harvest, yeah,
east,
Harvest View as
east
well.
and middle.
For what it's worth as well, please just keep in mind that we have 25 units to finish out down in Newberry Village as well. So
Where is
that's 55 and older on Newberry Road.
Okay.
That's the development that Bob is associated with. So there's 25 outstanding units there, and that doesn't include the errant lots that have already been approved that we don't know if or when they show up.
Okay.
Now, as we come down through, if you'll take a look, Charlie, that also includes this salary part-time. I believe I also included in that a 16-hour-a-week property maintenance code enforcement officer.
That'd be a blight enforcement, right?
That would be,
Yeah.
yes.
That's in there?
Yeah, I believe it is. I'll do the numbers right now.
Property maintenance,
Correct.
what is that?
That is the property maintenance code. That's one of the ordinances that we have. That's the blight thing that we
Okay.
discussed.
All right. And your 25,000 for professional services, who is that?
Because that is the estimated cost of a plan review and code analysis for the casino.
Okay.
I'm currently in the process of doing the plan review and code analysis for Calamar. That's an extended process.
And that's an outside firm?
I'm currently doing Calamar myself right now.
The casino's a main outside
The
firm?
casino would be. However, it may or may not be ICC. I'd spoken with Bob about taking a look at this thing and possibly even putting it out to bid
Mhm.
with qualified. And I suppose that's another conversation we should have away from this table, but I think you're going to find that the cost of contracting something along those lines out, your plan review would be, there again, $20,000 to $30,000, whereas the inspection services would run between $200,000 and $300,000.
But that will be paid for, in a sense, we could pay for it from the building permit of the casino. They would come and give you the money for the building
Well,
permit.
hopefully,
Yeah, and that would cover these expenses, the 25,000 plus the,
but at this point in time, I would expect based on all timelines, under the best of circumstances, that the casino would not make application and we wouldn't see that revenue until the next fiscal year.
Mhm. I guess from my standpoint, that something to do with the casino, you don't have anything, further up the pike on this paper, for that. Yet you've got it here, And I'd like to see anything related to the casino on a supplemental page with this.
Perfect.
Because I think that makes more sense. And if we do that with everybody, then we'll know, we won't get things mixed up, because we will get it mixed up. It will, somebody look at this, well, we're gonna cut that, but, if it's on a separate page, that's gotta be looked at independently, I think. You agree? Yeah.
Plus, we're at a junction right now where we've been planning since August 2015. Our departments have. And we haven't realized any type of revenue production from this. If you think about it from that perspective.
I'm in the same boat. I've been planning to win the lottery the past many years.
Well, I think that's very admirable.
I covered my garage with the tickets that didn't win.
I hope their odds are better than yours.
No, and that's a very apropos analogy as well, because we're still planning on this.
Yeah.
And we don't have any cash in our hands.
That's right.
But we have to be prepared.
Yeah, we do. We do. Can't ignore it. You gotta be,
Yeah.
somewhere near to what you think you gotta do, so it's.
What was the
not-
demolition fee?
Oh, that wasn't much, Andy.
You go by the cost of the demolition?
Yeah, I can tell you roughly off the top of my head. $3,200.
Oh, that's all.
Yeah.
It was based on a total cost of around $209,000 is what they estimate to take that down.
Where do you take all that stuff?
It depends on what it is. Any of the concrete block of the aggregate will go and be recycled. I would well imagine that's heading to Tilcon. I don't have that report yet.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Yeah. The building came back clean. Everything, all of our environmentals came back totally clean.
Oh, is it? Really?
Well, the structure was built in '92, I think, and it was 70 or 71 that federal legislation was adopted in regards to not allowing any further production of asbestos-laden materials. And you figure a 3 to a 5 year timeline to get all of that material, whether it's floor tile, glazing, wallboard compound, off from, out of the pipeline. So, other than an errant couple of cases sitting in somebody's basement they didn't use, commercial structures really didn't see much. After about 84, I'm going to say 82 to 84. So, as I said, that other than the mold, that building came back completely clean.
Does the building have mold in it?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
black mold.
Did they leave the seats in?
No.
They're gone.
They weren't allowed to through the decommissioning process, because in order for us to decommission a structure, they have to reduce the fire load to less than 3% of the total interior and square footage of that. The carpets had to come out. The wall coverings for the sound deadening, all of that had to come out.
So that was
Oh,
all
really?
out of there already?
Oh, yes.
So it's down to the bare concrete there?
It
Or
was,
block?
yeah. In fact, some of the adhesives had to come out in
Really?
order to meet the threshold for the
Hmm.
fire loads.
Interesting.
I can't remember what was there before that. I can't even remember that.
I know what was there. I have a survey from 1934 in my office on that
Okay.
property. And if you'd like to look at it, please.
What was there, tell me?
Pasture.
Oh.
There was never anything there.
A couple of houses, a couple of
I'm
barns.
trying to think, not Sabitsky, trying to think whose farm that was now.
Oh, I know whose farm was named.
Yeah, so do I. Now you said, because that went all the way up into the industrial park and that whole area.
Yeah.
It was a big farm,
Huge.
yeah. Wasn't Sabitsky, but I'll get it. It'll come back. Okay.
All right, so what I'll do, Charlie, as well, is I will, under capital purchases, I will remove the on-site office trailer for the casino specific, that annual cost. Under capital purchases, Uh,
Let me ask you about that, you know.
Please.
Is that, you know, that trailer, and I get why you need it and so forth, is that something that the casino's paying for
No.
separately? We gotta do that.
Correct.
So that'll come out of the monies that we have.
Correct.
I got it, okay.
What I am proposing, and I'll give you a very brief history on it, we've recognized the need for office security and revenue security to, at this point in time, reconfigure our office as well. 15 years ago, on Labor Day weekend, I took everything out of my office. I was told we had no money at all to do anything with, and I paid for the paint myself, and I painted my office myself. I couldn't stand it. At that point in time, I didn't have the heart to tell the first selectman that I'd already ordered the office furniture and the new carpet. And when it was all installed on Monday, and she asked me how I was going to pay for it, where was my office, I said, why, Linda, it's not my office, it's your office. So I'm sure we can figure that out, and we did. But that was the last time the office had been reconfigured, and attitudes have changed, times have changed, and people are much too free to wander and encroach upon spaces and desks, and they really shouldn't be. And I think that it's time for us to secure this space so that my staff feels safe.
So what you would do is put a glass,
I have the designs, and I believe they were included in the packages, much like Lori. We have a few different designs and the costs that were developed for this. And Charlie, the same company, Transfer Enterprises. Transfer came from our operations manager, Joe Sauerhofer, in terms of that, much like the modular office company did. And I've kept track of, obviously.
Was this used furniture that the quote was for or not?
Yes,
It was?
yes,
That transfer there to Manchester?
yes. Yep, they
And
are.
that was quite a while ago, but
This goes back to December 4th, and all I got was from him was the ballpark numbers on this reconfiguration.
I'm not seeing the
yeah, I don't have a,
diagrams.
Oh, okay.
So
All
maybe
right.
Jen didn't put them in.
I'm more than happy to provide this. Pardon me.
what's it look like, Rand?
And I've got numbers right here at the top too, please. I can get copies for you gentlemen before the night's over. Just on a very brief and a very quick other note, to give you gentlemen an idea of what we're actually looking at. Over the course of the past 3 fiscal years, our office has also handled, at this point in time, town projects in excess of $8 million, which means that if this were other work, there would have been an additional almost $124,000 in revenue that would have come into our office that we did not realize, because obviously the town does not pay permitting fees. Okay, but all of these projects still require inspection. So that's an additional workload that most people don't see and certainly isn't reflected in the revenue production. At a certain point in time, I would encourage the community to take a look at and do the analysis. In fact, I don't mind doing it, but do the analysis of not only our expenses, but the revenue production and the cost of these permitting fees. Because if we break this down and we take a look at the liability aspects of it, we've been fortunate thus far to not have to encumber any legal fees. I feel sometimes like we're just dodging bullets, but I think we have to take a look at the insurances. Everything that's associated with the running of that office, from the lights to the gasoline to all of the expenses encumbered. And I would encourage open debate on raising these permit fees nominally. And when I say this, I mean, we currently are at $20.50 for the first $1,000 evaluation. Well, many people do projects for themselves and the valuation comes in under $1,000. So there's an awful lot of checks written for $20.50. You can't take 3 people out to McDonald's today for $20.50.
What is it in other towns?
It varies. To give you an idea, West Hartford, I believe now is $35 for the first 1,000 evaluation and $22 or $25 for every 1,000 thereafter.
I guess I'd like to see something that's more pertinent, like, you know, Windsor, South Windsor, Ellington, Summers, you know, those towns that are more our size kind of thing, and, you know, the high side would be South Windsor, I think, to see what it is, and we should be comparable to what those are, because I don't think people relocate or do something because the building permit is $10 more or less.
I agree.
One way or the other.
I don't
They
believe
want to
that
be
you-
here, you know, but I want to be in line too.
Yeah,
you know. But,
I pretty much, I haven't done it this year, Charlie, but I do have historical data over the course of the last 15 years that would provide that, but I'll provide you with an up-to-date.
okay. You know, in these forms, were these forms always used, these same forms,
They've been used for a few years.
for a few years? You know, I think somehow we can put another section here for revenue for the same years and so forth. Not that it has a direct impact to the budget request, but I think for the readers, you know, the finance board, ourselves, that it's pertinent to what goes on in the department rather than searching for it. You know, that there is, you know, self-sufficient, not self-sufficient. Because I mentioned that to Melissa at the Park and Rec, they charge, you know, fees. So whatever ones do, they put it in there. It's just a placeholder to show that.
There is another spreadsheet that we're gonna be looking at, which is the revenue summary,
Okay.
which is, like, it shows you like, different, like, land use permits, you know,
Yeah.
all of that, it's handled in a different one when we're calculating the mill rate.
Okay. Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, but that is part of this spreadsheet that we'll be working on.
I keep a running spreadsheet in my office specific to our department too. But what we also do in my department is we catalog every phone call, every message returned. Our computers automatically do the emails, but the number of people that come in and out of our office on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, I think that's all pertinent and important information when it comes time to put all of that together. I think that plays a big role in what we do and how we do it. And I also think that it helps my department when I come to sit before you and I say, we're busy. It means we're busy.
Well, one of the things that I think we talked about it is that for the departments, and we like Lori's, you know, if we could get some type of a monthly activity report that has information as to, you know, kind of what went on for the month, you know, not looking for anything that is, you know, a War and Peace novel, but it's just a one page to say, you know, we did this many zoning you know, how many things you inspected and, you know, things like that. So we get I think, a sense of the activities that are going on in town. Andy, you agree?
Yeah, I agree. We talked about that, and I think it has to be simple, but I think it will help the board to understand what's going on in the various departments.
We typically already have all of that data.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
We provide you with monthly revenue report anyway. We report to the federal government what would be called the Dodge report. The Dodge report is the total number of permits issued. Obviously, COs play a role.
They still call it that.
They do,
I
but
forgot about that.
I also negotiated with the Warren Group a few years ago. They primarily requested information that we did not have to provide under freedom of information because it wasn't readily available and it wasn't data that was readily compiled. And under FOI, we didn't have to provide it. However, I recognize the regional importance of it, so what I did is I negotiated with them exchange of information. Typically, they charge municipalities and businesses for the information they compile and they disseminate. I negotiated a special list of properties that were sold within a specific month from them to come back into my office. So every month I received to give us an indication of the number of sales that take place in the community to gauge the health, the activity, the pricing, what's going on with our community. That all plays a role in our building and how we construct our new homes.
Mm-hmm.
So I also have that report that comes in.
And I think, you know, from the commercial side, I think what would be helpful, and, you know, we'd like to say this to the townspeople, you know, that if you're doing an inspection of a new business, and whether that was an existing structure, but now somebody left and somebody's in there, you don't have to give, you know, what they tell you our estimated employees are gonna be here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be, you know, good information to know that, you know, there's jobs that are coming into town, and, you know, and people should feel proud about that.
I would like to have that more focus on the commercial side, the industrial side, the residential side. You know, it's nice to have that information, but the town coffers will grow more rapidly with commercial development.
They will, but in as much as we have that commercial development open, Andy, Lori, would you estimate we still have 68 to 70% of our residentially zoned property available for development?
Yeah, pretty much.
Because two
If you put all
POCD
the-
cycles ago, we had 60%.
Yeah. Mhm.
So we still, that impact is going to be there. And that impact probably affects our budget much more than
It does.
the residential, than the commercial does.
Yeah.
Even though I think our tax base right now, Andy, still rests at somewhere between 33 and 35% commercial to the 68 to 65% residential, which puts us in the top 3 or 4 communities in the state with that percentile breakdown, commercial to residential.
It's really low.
Yes.
But the biggest taxpayers are all commercial.
Oh, no, but that's the point, Charlie. Many communities don't have 5% commercial base.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I know.
we're fortunate to be in the 33 to
Yeah.
35%.
I would have thought that most of the municipalities would be greater than that, not so.
Not so at all.
It's,
As of 2005, we were in the top 3 communities in the state
wow.
for that breakdown. So we have a robust and extremely healthy commercial tax base.
Because we have a low population.
Well, also, there's one other factor, and that is we have low taxes on a comparable basis.
Yep.
We have the availability of Bradley International, 91, Route 5, that plays a huge role in these companies coming to locate here, and their ease of transportation,
Yes.
that plays a huge role.
When I went out and talked to these companies 4 or 5 years ago, that was a big issue. You know, it was a good location because of access to highways, access to the airport.
84 is 15 minutes down the road,
Yeah.
so
If we could just open up Route 5, it would be easier. You know, Larry Tribble said that his people who buy his cars, they actually drive south to go across the Bissell Bridge rather than driving north on Route 5 where it's more traveled.
Well, and I will tell you that I can speak personally that I have had to alter on particular days how I get around town based on the increase. Okay? 140 is a mess 2 times a day.
It is busy.
Route 5 is a mess 2 times a week. And you try to go down Route 5 at 4:30 at night now, it's bottleneck coming right off the highway. I've seen the highway backed up, all the way back out onto the highway.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Let's think about tolls. What's the $1,500 for emergency repair?
What that is if we have a situation, an event, and when I say an event, a car breaches a structure, a fire that endangers, or there's imminent danger to public safety, it gives me the availability to order the structure to be addressed immediately to ensure public safety, Charlie. What's the best way for me to put it? Many instances, we either can't get in touch with the owners, or we can't, we need to address that situation right now. And that means I pick up the phone and make a phone call, and it gets taken care of right then and there. Many instances, this money is recoverable through the insurance companies, okay? Or through even the companies like this company's J.P. McGuire, is one company, Servpro is another company, that if we have to bring them in immediately, what we found is in today's world, some of these companies are better positioned with the insurance companies.
Yeah.
So they just handle it all. We don't have to. But I'm of the opinion that we need to have this contingency in place. It doesn't mean we spend it. It just means we have it so that in the event of an emergency, to secure public safety, we have it.
Okay. Just as an FYI, maybe you know this, maybe not, but I've been working some with the Warehouse Point Fire Department, and they're daytime people. They have a couple, 3 daytime people that are there, you know, whatever the hours are. And in their low times that they're not out on something, they have developed a practice where they're going out to every business. I don't know if they've covered them all yet, and introducing themselves. We're from the fire department, so I just want to let you know we're around. You need anything, so forth and so on. And they're getting the emergency contact information for every one of them that, you know, that there is out there. So that is a database you might want to tap into with them, so that if you have a fire like that, they will know who exactly it is that you need to reach out to. And that's a very good initiative.
It is excellent. And what we've done with the fire departments, we're watching more and more and more data becoming readily available for us, either through police, the fire, or even the ambulances. Okay, only because of access now, Wi-Fi has changed everything, and the availability of this data, even on our phones today, it does play a role, so we don't struggle nearly as badly.
So maybe something to get a copy to put it on your system here.
Well, and that's not a problem. I have a good relationship with both fire departments, and to give you an idea, they get a quarterly update from my department in regards to where all of the new photovoltaic or solar systems have gone in town. Because most of these are DC systems. And that's rapidly evolved today as well, to where I've had to familiarize these guys to what rapid shutdown systems are, where the older systems are. But we keep a running spreadsheet in our department. And I'm pleased to sit and let you guys know that 5 years ago, when we had our first large 1,300 panel installation go up, at this point in time, I require every installation over 500 panels. I require the installer to provide the option and opportunity for our fire departments to have training at the site. So they know how to approach these structures that have these large systems on them in the event of an emergency.
So there's a house in Vernon about 3 years ago that burned to the ground because they didn't know how to get in there.
Yeah.
I'm sure they've gotten.
Well, it is, but it's still
It's an issue.
it can be a very dangerous situation with someone that's not trained or doesn't have knowledge of how to approach it.
Yeah. Times change. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, appreciate it.
I hope it was beneficial, and I hope it was
Certainly was.
informative.
It certainly
Where do
was.
For what it's worth, gentlemen, my office door is always open, anytime.
Appreciate that.
But are you there?
I don't know, Tom, am I
Yeah,
ever
the field,
there?
his office is open.
Am I ever there?
Rarely.
No comment.
Lauren, we'll talk about this, but I'm gonna make copies, so.
Do you want me to make copies for you?
I can do it.
Copies of what?
Of this resolution for the grant,
They didn't get it?
not that I'm aware of.
I'm not
Gave it
completely
to
sure, but I think.
Jen?
I know.
Okay. Oh, you want me to make copies? I could have been doing that while I was sitting here.
Well, you can start talking about it.
I'm not gonna start talking about
Not you, Bob.
You're a little cold over there, aren't you?
cool.
I'm freezing.
It's everything I can think of.
Joe's got everything shut down because.
I know, it's like, if we needed to resolve, to be able to.
Yeah, I tried.
You are here tonight as a member of the zoning commission. Also, you keep coming over.
You know,
Scary thought, isn't it?
I'm not gonna see you tomorrow morning.
If you put it on auto, it never works.
We gotta be
Just
down
take the auto
They're all a
off.
fine bunch of.
I do that in my office.
St. Francis that
Yeah, it was
night.
like-
Yeah, easier at.
Oh, I got you.
Oh, I thought you were going to work the heat.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, you actually know how to work the heat?
Okay, should I call
Are we
Doug?
gonna
I take it off in auto.
Are we clear here? Are we done?
Yeah.
No?
No.
Okay.
Okay, good luck.
Let me finish you.
What is that place? Yeah, is that the water pumping system?
Yeah,
Is that water?
Shouldn't even be here now.
I don't think so either. but
I don't think so
This has been
either.
going on since the day they installed this one. Huh?
You don't hear them in the, like in my office, you don't hear it.
Joseph, where this is tied into the central right out here.
This is the manifold, isn't it?
Is that Freon in there?
This time of
Well,
year.
there's some kind of refrigerant. We don't
Yeah.
put it on anymore.
Well, yeah.
Every night about 8:30 or so. they
Yeah,
get
it
this down.
does.
Taps on the
We can turn it on.
The junkies will get behind it. Sitting in the refrigerant, now they're using it.
Oh, yeah, that's what we saw.
No, no. He said, nothing is sacred.
Did you see it?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
How did you ever see it?
Oh,
Okay, maybe Ken sent it out. It's an email or something.
Yeah, I didn't even look at the agenda, I just.
We lost the guy because he was.
Okay. So, last July, I put in a grant request for the transit-oriented development and smart growth grant, responsible growth, is what they call it, TOD grant. And this is for the drainage, stormwater management plan and revising the zoning regulations and providing for more multi-use and mixed-use in Warehouse Point, along with coming up with some design guidelines. So this is what I've been asking before the Board of Selectmen probably for the last couple of years. But I actually did get the grant. It was for $23,800. And at the time that we submitted it, this board, of course it was not the same city members, but this board did send in a certified resolution that they would that they wanted to apply for this. So we did that at the time. This is July 18th, 2017, and I just highlighted the motion to approve the certified resolution for the 2017 Responsible Growth and Transit-Oriented Development Grant Program. We'll get it to you.
I know, thank you.
You wanted to? Yeah. Basically, at that time, we discussed that it would probably be about a $7,500 matching fund for the grant. So, now that the grant has been approved and awarded, I have to go through all of this paperwork to actually get the funds, and part of it is to have the Board of Selectmen reapprove this certified, and redo a certified resolution saying that yes, indeed, they will do the matching funds of $7,500. And I think that Bob and I discussed it today, and he was of the mind that he wants to send this to the Board of Finance before you actually make the declaration.
Yeah, and so we can discuss this, but my idea is to authorize or approve a supplemental appropriation of $7,500 to cover the 10%. If you look at
Well, actually, the 10% is divided. It's 7,500, it's, the match is 13,700. So 7,500 of that is actually monetary match, and then the other 6,200 is actually in kind. So in kind services means that we calculate the hourly rates for all the staff members and all the commission members that are working on this, and you know how much time we spend on preparing packets or printing or whatever. We actually calculate all that time, and it's in kind services of personnel. So out of that 13,700, only 7,500 is
I'm not
cash.
familiar with what you're talking about, these in-kind.
well, yeah,
That's what I.
if you look on page, there's this page here, there's the symbol up here.
Yeah.
And so on that page, it explains about guaranteed match.
Yeah.
It says $13,700. Yeah, it's got a circle around it too, John.
Yeah, I've got it, yeah.
Okay, so they're asking for a 10% match, and I don't know why 10% of 123,800 is 13,700.
Because it's actually 137,000. So the match is counted in the 10%.
Oh, okay. Okay, but, so the town has to pay in money, $7,500, and then the in-kind, they say that the work that Lori does and others will account toward the difference.
In hours.
Right.
Okay, so you got 123,000, is that right? Okay.
123,800.
Okay, it's planning for stormwater management and village center redevelopment in Warehouse Point.
Correct.
What does the redevelopment in Warehouse Point?
So we're talking about, first of all, doing a stormwater management plan so we don't have any additional flooding. We need to know where, if we're going to increase density, increase impervious coverage, we need to know where that water is going to go. We already have issues with flooding with the Blue Ditch, and of course the Connecticut River is a potential threat as well for flooding. So we need to know where that water, that drainage from all of this potential development is going to go. So we're going to do a stormwater management plan, and then the consultant will also work on doing new zoning regulations that will allow more multi-use and increase densities, increase impervious coverage, meaning that's where you can't have the rain go through the ground. So
Okay.
and
to
then
get
design studies as well with guidelines.
Okay, I'm trying to get my head. This village center redevelopment, but
It's Warehouse Point. It's
Okay.
basically just saying that we're going to be doing village-style zoning down at Warehouse
Yeah,
Point.
what is the basis of that, of that plan that we get the 123K to go off and study its impact?
We're going to have all of what I just said performed. We're going to hold workshops, we're going to have the public involved, but we're going to do, an engineer will do a stormwater management plan for the whole Warehouse Point, and then we're also going to develop regulations, new zoning regulations to allow more varied uses and more multi-type use in that zone,
So
in that village area.
The first step then is to do this storm.
Stormwater management plan.
And then from that, you will develop what can be developed in that area,
Mhm.
as opposed to
Yeah.
going out and projecting what you want to build, and then doing a storm management based on that?
Right,
Okay.
right. So we were, it's a little bit concurrent, but you don't want to start saying, oh, we're going to allow 100% coverage of a site when we don't have
Understand.
anywhere to put that water. So we
Okay.
need to have an idea as to what sort of stormwater management we can
So
come
it starts
up
out with how to dispose of
Right,
the
The storm-
water, wastewater,
right.
and then you can go from there and develop
Mhm.
a plan for what you want to build,
Right.
the structure you want to build there.
Yeah, the guidelines for
Right.
development, so
Okay.
we want to increase the density for housing, for
Yeah.
instance. I mean, right now, we allow like 4 dwelling units per acre if, under a good circumstance. If you look at Dean Street down there, if you're familiar with
Dean
that.
Avenue.
Dean Avenue, that's about 8 or 9 dwelling units per acre. But it's a beautiful little development, and the houses are gorgeous. We want to kind of design more similar housing styles and densities down in Morehouse Point like
And
that.
and from an area standpoint, where does it stretch from? The overpass, how far to?
So Warehouse Point is now defined as from the Enfield Town line
No,
to the north, the Connecticut River to the west, and then I-91 as it goes from the river up to Enfield.
And how far south? All the way to-
I-91.
All the way to,
Yeah, it stops at the I-91 corridor. So I-91 kind of
yep,
loops, so.
Okay.
and south of there is East
Would not
Windsor.
be, yeah, it would be, yeah. That, south of there, it starts getting into the Route 5 corridor, which
Yeah.
that we will be working on that study as well,
Yeah.
with the DOT and CROG.
Okay, so there's a vision there for Grosse Point.
Yes, yes, we've already started a lot of the work down there, which I think was one of the reasons that we got the grant, because we've done some studies, we showed that we've had interest and
Yeah.
willing to commit to studies there, so we were able to levy that to get this grant, I think.
Good.
So we kind of have to authorize the payment of $7,500 as a matching fund to obtain this grant. So, and I'm thinking that we should ask the Board of Finance for the $7,500. It's a supplemental appropriation.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so let me make a motion, because I wrote it down here, and then I can give it
Is
to
that going
Peg.
to be paid through professional services, or where do you envision paying it, and what type of stuff is that going to be?
Just a supplemental
No.
appropriation.
No, I'm talking
What line?
to Lori about what kind of thing is this.
It's supposed to be used for workshops and printing, so workshops, so we might,
Supplies?
we might have food, some beverages or something. We might need to rent a hall, or most likely that's not going to happen. But, and then we also have to do printing, whether we're doing flyers or regulations or whatever to hand out to the
So
public.
you're asking that when we get the 123,000?
No, I'm saying the 7,500, what kind of expenses are those? So it would make,
That's what it's earmarked
you're
for.
looking
Oh,
about
I see.
maybe an additional appropriation for supplies and equipment
Right,
for this grant
right,
to cover that, okay?
right. Or more legal ads to advertise or something like that. So anything that's associated with the workshops themselves.
The supplies and equipment is really the logical line that you're looking to expand. And over what time period are you going to use it?
Probably over about 18 months to 20,
Okay.
18 to 24
So
months.
that's going to be a problem. Because if you do 7,500 of June, it's going to expire. If you
Oh,
put it in
really?
the general fund. You put it in the general
But this
fund.
should go into the grant fund.
Okay.
We're going to be getting monies from the grant. Shouldn't this also join the grant fund, and then we just appropriate this much money for
I'll look
those
into
uses?
that. So that might make the most sense.
Yeah.
That's why I
I
was
think
trying
that's
to
what
get my
we've done.
head around.
I
No,
think
that
we've
was a
done
good
that in
question.
the past
Yeah.
with grants.
Yeah.
Is there a
okay.
requirement that we spend our money first? in these grants? Sometimes there are.
There is not a requirement that we spend our money first, but even if we do not spend all of the money, we need to make sure that we are providing 10% of whatever the total cost was at the end of the day.
Okay, so tell me how you think about this. I would say, I move that the Board of Selectmen authorize a supplemental appropriation of $7,500 to fulfill the cash match for the TOD and Responsible Growth Incentive Fund grant. Sounds okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I would,
But shouldn't you have something in there that it have to be moved to the Board of Finance?
well,
Yeah, the Board of Finance actually does the
Oh,
transfers.
yeah.
So,
and yes, and
forward to the Board of Finance or something?
and forwarded to the Board of Finance.
This is your resolution.
There you go.
Okay, so I'll read that again. So I move that the Board of Selectmen authorize a supplemental appropriation of $7,500 to fulfill the cash match for the TOD and Responsible Growth Incentive Fund grant and be forwarded to the Board of Finance. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. You're, okay.
Yeah.
And I would entertain, we don't need an executive session unless there's something we do. Okay.
Thank you,
I
gentlemen.
entertain a motion
Thank
to
you.
adjourn.
I second.
Okay.
You're gonna do public, you just ask.
All those in favor?
Wait, we had a
Okay.
public thing.
Oh, public. I'm sorry.
Just asking.
Public participation, I skipped right over it. Okay, so just say good job. Thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Gil, you're gonna redo this with all the appropriate new numbers in it?
Yep.
Like, for example, the Warehouse Point Library.